Marty Supreme is a 2025 American sports comedy drama film directed by Josh Safdie, who co-wrote it with Ronald Bronstein. Set in the 1950s, it stars Timothée Chalamet as table tennis player Marty Mauser, loosely based on Marty Reisman, and follows his quest to become a world champion. Marty Supreme premiered at the New York Film Festival on October 6, 2025, and was released in the United States on December 25 by A24. The film received critical acclaim and grossed $162.3 million worldwide, becoming A24's highest-grossing film. The National Board of Review and the American Film Institute named it one of the 10 best films of the year. It received 9 nominations at the 98th Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and 11 at the 79th British Academy Film Awards, including Best Film. It also earned 3 nominations each at the 83rd Golden Globe Awards and the 32nd Actor Awards. Chalamet won a Golden Globe and a Critics' Choice Award for his performance. Plot: in 1952 New York City, Marty Mauser works as a shoe salesman at his Uncle Murray's store. Rachel arrives looking for Marty to retrieve a pair of shoes she supposedly left behind the day before when she bought a new pair. Marty takes her to the back room to find the box, but once there, they start touching each other all over. Rachel is incredibly aroused, and Marty can feel it, so he goes for it. After many kisses and gasps, Marty has to release that pent-up tension and cross Rachel's threshold, which she's been eager to break through. There, both of them sweating, they release the tension they've felt at the beginning. It was all very good, especially knowing that Rachel is married. It makes it even better. Rachel was married to Ira, whom she considered pathetic and fat, but if she didn't appreciate him, she should have left him. She proved she could stand on her own 2 feet. She was a streetwise girl with plenty of street smarts. But what she really wanted was to sleep with Marty, only Marty wasn't interested. Marty dreams of winning the British Open and defeating the defending champion, Bela Kletsky, to bring American attention to the sport. He also proposes selling orange table tennis balls with his name on them to his friend Dion and his father, a businessman. But the shrewd old man refuses. Marty receives a call from his mother, which he refuses to answer. Once home, he learns he won't be able to use the money he had set aside for his trip to England. Desperate, he goes to the store and asks his friend Lloyd to give him $700 and report it as theft. He promises to return the money upon his return from Europe, and the whole thing will be forgotten. In London, dissatisfied with the players' headquarters, Marty complains, demanding preferential treatment and a change of hotel. During the argument, he seriously offends the game's organizer and manages to secure a room at the Ritz Hotel through trickery. There he meets former actress Kay Stone. He calls her to his room and flirts with her, then invites her to come watch him play. Marty defeats Kletsky in the semi-finals, but loses the final to Kodo Endo, a deaf Japanese player who uses a sponge racket. Marty is the classic sells smoke and a sore loser. Full of rage, he says that Kendo didn't beat him, but rather that he lost to Kendo's racket. That's how sore losers are. They throw tantrums and blame everything on others, never taking responsibility, and worse yet, they're bad winners. At a dinner party, Marty is with his friend and sees Kay arrive with her husband. Marty sends Kay something with the waiter, and the husband gets furious and confronts him, asking why he's giving them gifts. Then Marty gets his friend to tell a story about a concentration camp, which I found a bit disgusting to share at a meal, but that's just my opinion. Afterward, he pitches Rockwell the $1 million idea of selling tennis rackets in Japan, since it's a very popular sport there. After dinner, the horny old lady went into Marty's room. She was hungry for meat and Marty offered her fresh meat and well, the old lady isn't a god to forgive, so cheers to her killer. Months later, Rockwell offers Marty an exhibition match against Endo in Tokyo before the World Championships, but Marty rudely refuses upon learning that he would be expected to lose the match to excite the Japanese crowd. This was all, of course, sponsored by Rockwell's new product, the Rockwell rackets. In his refusal, Marty happens to mention Rockwell's deceased son, which infuriates Rockwell. He unleashes a torrent of insults on Marty, not to offend him about his son's death, but rather, in his fury at the mention of his son's death, to tell Marty how stupid he is and that the world works this way, not as he believes. He essentially tells Marty he's a brainless kid who isn't the center of the universe, just a nobody and will always remain so. He also says he's not a professional gambler but a vaudeville performer, as he's currently on an international tour with Kletsky as a novelty act for the Harlem Globetrotters. Back in New York, Marty is arrested for stealing from Murray, but he escapes. It's a ruse orchestrated by Murray to lure him back to the store. He runs into Rachel, who is pregnant and claims the baby is his. Marty denies being the father, because he's a professional fornicator and never ejaculates inside her. He always uses intense concentration and pulls out before finishing completely. So the child must be her husband's. Good grief, I can't find any flaws in his logic. The woman has a husband, so it's most likely the child is his, don't you think? But Rachel, instead of being offended, clings to Marty and won't let go, sticking to him like a tick. Good grief, Marty, what a vicious scorpion you've got yourself into. While staying at a rundown hotel with his friend Wally, a taxi driver, Marty discovers he's been banned from the World Championships unless he pays a $1,500 fine to the International Table Tennis Association for fraudulent expenses related to his stay at the Ritz. Marty's bathtub collapses, injuring mobster Ezra Mishkin, who pays Marty to take his dog Moses to the vet. Marty uses the bathtub despite being forbidden from using it because of its poor condition. Marty, on the other hand, goes to a pool hall to scam the unsuspecting patrons. In cahoots with his taxi driver friend Wally, they swindle the people there, but the others see through the trick and give chase. The gamblers later attack them at a gas station, but Marty and Wally escape, damaging the taxi and setting the gas station on fire. Moses flees during the fight. Rockwell returns to New York, having financed a play to relaunch Kay's career. Marty goes to the theater and watches the rehearsals, but he isn't looking for the old woman, although he does give her his feedback on the play, all while keeping an eye on the tycoon Rockwell. After rehearsals, Marty takes the old lady away to give her vitality injections. He's a deplorable and despicable man, completely desperate for money. After having sex with Kay, Marty steals her necklace, but after trying to pawn it, he discovers it's just cheap costume jewelry. Rachel arrives at Marty's with a black eye, claiming her husband Ira had beaten her, which enraged Marty, and he went to get revenge. With an object he found, he smashed Ira's head in, and you might think that Marty's a show-off, but he gave that woman abuser what he deserved. Marty and Rachel stay with Dion, who reveals that he produced the novelty balls. Marty asks how he made them, and Dion simply replies, "With money, baby." Marty and Rachel take advantage of Dion's kindness, just as everyone assumed, given their behavior. They steal Dion's car and try to find Moses to blackmail Mishkin, finally locating him at a seemingly abandoned farmhouse. The dog barks inside, and Marty tries to get him out, but the owner arrives and rudely asks what they're doing on his property. Rachel says they're just looking for a dog. Marty tells him they only want his dog and will leave, but the farmer denies owning a dog, even though Moses is barking desperately inside. With a gun in hand, the farmer forces the couple to flee. Later, Dion kicks them out for stealing and damaging his car and throws the balls into the street. Marty learns that Rachel faked her injury to manipulate him. Enraged, Marty realizes she broke the skull of an innocent man. Pathetic, perhaps, but not a woman beater, so pathetic doesn't give her the right to break his head, or to stab his wife's teddy bear. Marty leaves Rachel after this. Rachel tells her husband Ira that the baby isn't his, and he throws her out of the house. Amidst the uproar caused by the pathetic Ira, all the neighbors rush to the aid of poor, innocent Rachel. Everyone wants to intervene because she's the victim of an enraged and abusive husband. Marty's mother asks what's wrong so she can support Rachel, to which Ira replies, "There's this sinner carrying her grandson." I wonder what Rachel's Jewish neighbors would think after finding out she's an adulteress. Rachel, also believing she's the best negotiator in the world, calls Mishkin to tell him she has his dog and demands a reward. She arranges to meet him to make the exchange, but Mishkin refuses to pay until he sees the dog. Rachel takes him to a building where they bring out a dog that looks very similar, but this causes Mishkin to shoot the young man and realize the deception. Rachel tries to escape but is caught, which is lucky because the plan was to kill him. So, in the end, these con artists get very lucky. At the premiere of Kay's play, Marty apologizes for stealing her jewelry. He tries to pass himself off as innocent, but Kay doesn't believe him and lets him know. Marty tries to manipulate her by making her feel bad, using her marriage as a backdrop, which she sees as a prison. But she tells him he's just an inept young man who doesn't know how life works. Marty tries to tell her he's Donald Trump, chewing gum, dancing the tango, and surrounded by women and tons of money, but Kay is firm and emphasizes that he's just an inept petty thief. More out of pity than conviction, and perhaps to get rid of him because the relationship is dangerous, Kay tells Marty to meet her that night in Central Park, where she gives him a valuable necklace to pay for his fine and the trip. Marty feels happy and, as a way of showing his gratitude, decides to share some of his hard-won happiness with Kay. She, being a good sponsor, feels she has to get her money's worth, and if she's given some fresh meat, she'll take it. It would be rude not to. That's business. So they begin a moment of passion right there in the park, but they hadn't counted on the ever-vigilant law catching them and arresting them to take them to the police station for questioning. Kay can't risk having her name dragged into this scandal. She'd lose her chance to act again, and more importantly, it would create a lot of conflict with her husband. So Kate uses the necklace to bribe the officers into letting them go. Marty, the common thief he is, begs Kate for another gift from her husband. After all, he has plenty and he'd never notice, but Kate knows this is a difficult task. Once again, she sees how despicable this man is, and to get him to let her go, she offers him another necklace. But there's a party at the house, and Kay receives a bad review after the play and collapses, leaving her indisposed. Marty sneaks into the house, desperate, and when he sees Kay doesn't come out, he looks for her. Unable to speak to her, he seeks out her husband. It's his last resort. He then humiliatingly begs Rockwell to revive the offer of an exhibition in Tokyo, and Rockwell agrees on the condition that Marty pulls down his pants and shows him his scrawny, pale backside. Marty does so, which causes laughter from Rockwell and his millionaire friends. Rockwell takes one of his tennis rackets and smashes Marty's weak buttocks, turning them purple with the first blow. Rachel arrives to pick up Marty as he's preparing to leave on a trip with Rockwell, ruining his plans. Mishkin forces them to take him to the farm where they found Moses. But the farmer is reckless and starts shooting at them again. In a dramatic scene, a shootout erupts, leaving the farmer, Mishkin, and his men dead, and Rachel wounded. Marty discovers that the money is mostly worthless newspaper clippings. He takes Rachel to the hospital as she goes into premature labor and then leaves for Tokyo. In Japan, Marty sees the organizer of the Olympic table tennis competitions and goes to speak with him. He tells him that what he's about to see isn't real, that everything is rigged, and that he wants to participate in the championship again, offering to pay the hotel expenses plus the fine. But the response he receives is negative, saying that it doesn't matter if he settles the bill. The only thing that matters is that he's an unscrupulous person, which is unacceptable for an athlete, much less for the institution he represents, and that he should forget about ever participating in the Olympics again because he'll never play professionally again. Marty replies that that's just how he is, that he grew up in New York, and that's his philosophy. He takes what he sees and doesn't worry about the consequences. In other words, a vile thief from the streets of New York. The show unfolds as planned, with Marty losing and ultimately having to kiss a pig's rear end, just as he had agreed. But when the moment of truth arrives, Marty regrets it upon seeing the pig's enormous backside and demands a rematch, claiming it was all rigged. Rockwell tells him to back down, but Marty says he'll sabotage his show and his business. Rockwell tells him that won't happen, that even if he wins, absolutely nothing will change, and points out that he's a nobody and always will be, even though things could have been different. Endo accepts Marty's challenge, and Marty wins the duel, but not before demonstrating what a poor sportsman he is and what a sore loser he is with his tantrums and celebration. Rockwell denies him passage home, and Marty returns with U.S. Army soldiers. He reunites with his mother in the hospital, confesses his love to Rachel, who is recovering, and breaks down in tears upon meeting his newborn son. The film ends here. Comments. And this was the story of a common thief from the streets of New York, who could have been a world champion in table tennis, and even more, could have been a wealthy businessman, but who himself ruined everything by stealing money from the institution that organizes the championships, offending a magnate and thinking himself better than him in business, and showing himself as a vulgar gigolo with an elderly actress who could have been the saving grace in the end as a sponsor, but he still thought himself better than her and tried to humiliate her, to which the elderly woman replied that he was just a young boy who didn't know anything about life and she pushed him away. Marty decides to become a father with Rachel, and as the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together, they're a perfect match. In my opinion, it's a very funny movie, but it doesn't deserve any awards. It's true that it will probably win awards in the United States, but let's remember that it's their culture and their product. That doesn't mean it has to be the same for everyone. They also recognize good products from around the world, but without giving them anything more than that mere recognition. That's all from me. I hope I haven't touched a nerve, as I know many of you probably loved the film, partly because of the movie itself and partly because you're a fan of the actor. Goodbye.